there's a lot of protests in our nation taking place. There are these women demanding the right, for an abortion. I watched this woman the other day on the news, and she was screaming, we don't have another choice. If they end abortion, we don't have another choice. And I'm going, this can't possibly, this can't. Are we serious? First of all, abortion is not a choice. It was really put in place as the last option or the last choice if you had not done all the other things. But this is the year 2023. When Roe versus Wade went into effect, we were at a totally different time in our nation, and we were at a totally different time as it relates to medical and technological advances. So first of all, there's always other choices. The first choice is this simple one that I don't hear anyone discussing, and it's called abstinence. Women have somehow forgot that if you don't want an unplanned pregnancy, abstain from sex. Abstinence is a choice. Outside of abstinence, there's this other thing called a choice. It's called masturbation. Yeah, if you feel like you must get off in some way physically, like you have to have that, do it yourself. It's safer and it won't end in an unplanned pregnancy. So there's a couple options. We have abstinence, we have masturbation, then we have all these pre-options before having an unplanned pregnancy. And that's all the different methods of birth control that exist today, of which there are many. There's pills, there's IUDs, there's implant devices, there are the pre-plans, and if you do engage in sexual activity and say, oh, I didn't have anything, then you come back and you take a Plan B pill. There's condoms, there's foams, there's gels, there's sprays. There are a ton of different options that will prevent you from getting into an unplanned pregnancy, but somehow abortion is the only thing that people are saying they need this choice on. No. There are lots of choices, and ironically, within the African American community, the number of unplanned pregnancies amongst young women has gone down over recent years. So we're not experiencing as many unplanned pregnancies for younger people within our community. And if you are an adult woman, there really isn't a reason why an abortion would be your only choice to prevent a pregnancy. So we're not going to pretend that first, the idea of adult American Christian women standing in protest for the legal murdering of babies, unborn babies, is pretty sickening. And when you think, the entire world is watching America right now. The entire world is watching America. And what we see in this nation that is traditionally known as a Christian nation is women who are demanding for the right to murder their unplanned pregnancy or a child that they don't want to have, but you had other options. And let's not pretend that you didn't have any other options. So for the young woman veteran, the young woman who maybe hasn't heard this information, there are some things that you can do if you want to prevent a pregnancy from taking place. Number one, you can abstain from sex. You can go towards masturbation. You can get into a medical professional and talk to your doctor, someone through maybe a community health-based organization that can talk to you about a pill, a shot, a gel, a sponge. There are tons of different things that you can do. And there's this incredible thing with knowing your cycle, right? I don't know if they're not teaching this in school anymore, but when your cycle starts, you begin counting the days. There are only, and people say, oh, conception can take place from 3 to 5 days, out of the month. And I say, no, I say really, conception is really like 3 days. You get the day before ovulation, you get the day of ovulation, and you get the day out of ovulation. So if you really want to prevent an unplanned pregnancy, track your cycle and don't have sex during the days that you're ovulating. You have the entire rest of the month to engage in behavior where you haven't made any of the other choices for options. But if you really don't want to have a child that you don't plan and don't want and don't think the other person wants, don't have sex during the time that you're ovulating, and the chances of you having a child will be greatly diminished. And then if you do decide to engage in sex during this very small window of what is called, conception, a very small window of conception, there are other options. So abortion really should be the last choice. And I'm sorry that our nation waited this long to come back and rid us of this thing that has been out there. It was time for Roe versus Wade to be repealed. It was time for it to be adjusted, because where we were in the nation when Roe versus Wade was started and where we are today in terms of medical access to medical doctors and other technologies and medicines that can prevent these things and help with these things, there just really isn't a need for us to be aborting babies in our nation. And I'm very glad that we are done with that. So for the woman who does find herself in a situation, there should be some options there for that woman, because at the end of the day, it is a woman's body. It's her right to choose. But it's her right to choose, but she didn't create that baby on her own, so somebody else has some options too. But what she's gonna say is it's her body and it's her choice. But what about the other person? Because on your own you couldn't create a baby. So and we're not addressing any of that in this nation. So I hope that anything that comes out of this current conversation that we're having about abortion is that we actually do begin to be real about what the choices are, because abortion isn't the only choice. And matter of fact, it should be the last choice. And if we are going to leave it on the table as an option for women to be able to get, then there should be some controls in place to make sure that the woman is going to be protected. The life, I guess the life of the child doesn't matter. Because if we're saying that she can choose not to have her child, the child's life doesn't matter. And people are going to say, oh, it's a fetus, it's a this, that. No. From the second of conception, it's a child. It's someone that God purposed to be here on earth. And outside of God's purposing for a child to be here on earth, they don't get on earth. They've tried for years to do all these different things of creating human life outside of the confines of a woman's body. But there's only one place a child is conceived today, and that is in the womb of a woman. So I hope that women love their wombs enough to protect them. If you don't want to have unplanned pregnancies today, there are a ton of different options that can help you prevent that. But if you do find yourself with a baby that you don't want to give birth to, abortion really should be your last choice.